live.
Buddy, we're live. We're live. Good to see you. Welcome to Hawk Wins Radio Picture Show. My name is Jack Dwyer.
And I'm Jay Smooth.
Now, we've got a great show for you guys every single week right here at Q4 Radio. Now, for those of you who are just tuning in for the very first time today, welcome. Hello, weary traveler. Good to see you. I know it's a bit of a wintry day today, and we're glad that you're cozied up on your couch with your tea and your puppy and your kitty, ready to laugh and have a good time. Because here at Hawk Wins, we support artists of all different kinds of mediums, whether it be comedy or music, or in today's case, musical comedy.
Oh, best of both worlds, huh?
That's right, absolutely. So for all of you theater geeks out there, stay tuned. We got a really great show for you tonight. Laura Dellis is in the house tonight.
Whoop, whoop.
Whoop, 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 whoop. What do you say? Should we send it on over to Laura and get this show rocking and rolling?
Let's do it. Yeah.
Let's do it. I'm ready to go.
Well, welcome, Laura.
The party has started.
The party is here. The party,
And its leader.
the party started when you walked in.
That's right.
Let's not forget that.
Never forget it. I brought the balloons, so.
Did? When the
Yeah,
fuck
they're
did you
all.
get
You
balloons?
can't see them, but they're here.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, kind of a cool thing I do.
Some of those crazy pills you're on.
I was
That
gonna
sounds
say, I want those kinds of drugs.
It's just an antidepressant, but they're pretty cool.
Lexapro.
Lexapro. 10 milligrams. We love it.
By hymns. Oh gosh, yes, hymns and hers.
Hims and hers.
Hymns and hers. Well, Laura, thank you for joining us tonight.
Yeah,
We
thank you for
appreciate
having
it.
me.
For anyone who's never heard of you before, tell us a little bit about yourself as a performer.
Yeah. I moved here, almost 10 years ago, which is kind of insane. I came down here to go to acting school and major in musical theater. And then I entered the real world and was doing okay. But I'd always had this kind of love for comedy. It's always been something that has been like a comfort blanket, something that, I don't know, people seem to see me when I do comedy. And I always just felt like it was kind of this, I don't know, superpower in some way. I guess maybe that sounds a little cocky, but I really enjoy doing it. And people seem to respond to it. So, and this is such a comedy town. This is where, it's a comedy town. So after I kind of went through a conservatory and the rigors of an acting school and all that stuff, I was like, okay, now I can focus on the comedy of it all. So I started to train, started out in improv at IO and The Annoyance. And then throughout the pandemic and stuff like that, found that I needed to do more to be seen and to do exactly what I wanted to do and reach the goals that I really wanted to. So then I created my own show, which I've always known I've wanted to do, but I needed to get to a place where I had enough confidence in myself to trust that I knew how to do it. And then I did that and I still do it. And it combines stand-up and music, and I kind of weave it together. And it's grown each year. And through that, I've started to dip my toes into stand-up more and really own that skill because I respect it so much. I always feel like I have to get better at it. And then I do sketch comedy too. So I've done sketch comedy at The Annoyance and IO. We had a run at Second City too in one of their studio theaters, which was really cool. So I kind of, for lack of better terms, do a lot of different types of performance. So that's why I'm always like, I'm a performer, because it's not just one thing. It's also hard to lock down goals or try to explain what the goals are because they sound a little preposterous and big. But I do know what they are, but you need to kind of be good at so many different things to get to the goals that I would hope to at least try for. So yeah, I kind of do a bunch of different types of things. And hopefully I do them okay. Yeah, that kind of sums me up.
You know, your performance is so interesting. It really fits in with the vibe of Chicago, past and present, and hopefully future.
Yeah.
It's such a mix of vaudeville and cabaret on top of stand-up and music.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
dance. And, I was kind of hoping you could talk to us a little bit about how you found your voice when making the show. Because so many people have these hopes and dreams of maybe one day doing a one-person show. but like never really find that inspiration or that like that moment of like, oh, that's this performer that did this X amount of years ago. I could totally do that. Talk to us a little bit about how you found your voice and maybe who are some of your inspirations.
Yeah, it's interesting. I talk about this in my show. I kind of do this big speech at the end that's never really written down. It's kind of the vibe of what just happened and how the show went and whatnot. And I talk exactly how it went, because I used to work. I still work at Davenport's. It's a cabaret and piano bar in Wicker Park.
Shout out Davenport's.
Shout out Davenport's.
Milwaukee.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. It's a great place. And I started to serve there, and I would sing in the front room. I was like a singing server, and I still am. But I would see a lot of shows in the back room, because that's like a ticketed event space, and a lot of cabarets, a lot of music, a lot of comedy and burlesque and all this stuff. And I started to pick up like, oh, that works. That doesn't work. Or that's how you hold the microphone. That's not how the tech stuff, the logistics, and then just like how to form a show. So as I was watching that for about a year, I was like, okay, so when I do my show, like I always was like, so when I do my show, I'm going to do it like that, blah, blah, blah. But the thought of it was so scary. It was so overwhelming because I knew that it had to be really good. I'm a big Beyonce person, so I was like, it has to be like my Lemonade or something like that. Like it has to be like, it has to encompass me. I have to work so hard on it. It has to be so good. I'm not going to have people come and I'm not going to read off the sheet music on the piano stand. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but like it's going to be rehearsed. It's going to be memorized. It's going to be really thought through. And it was going to be unequivocally me. So it was super, super scary. And then the pandemic hit and Davenport's closed down and theater closed down. And, I didn't lose that drive. If anything, it heightened the fact that I had not accomplished what I had wanted to accomplish. And I just wanted to be seen so badly. And I wanted to be, I thought, this musical theater actress who does, does like musical comedy, because that's always been like that happy blanket between that, all the stuff I love to do. But it just wasn't happening. I was going into these rooms, and while everybody was really nice and stuff like that, I'm not fitting in with the people I'm waiting with. I'm not in 45 seconds. In musical theater, you usually have like 45 seconds to a minute. Like that's basically it. To sing, to say, hi everyone, I'm Laura. I'm going to be singing blah, blah, blah. And then you have 45 seconds. And I'm trying to do comedy, or I'm trying to like be dramatic or sad or whatever. And I just was getting a lot of like, okay, thank you, Laura. Like, and I know that it takes years to be seen and all that stuff, but I was like, I don't know if this is getting, once I was in a show, I was like, I love being in this show, but I was like, there was always, it was a struggle to be seen in the audition room, and then I would get cast, and then I would be in like a musical comedy or something, and then they'd be like, you're too big, you got to pull it down, you're too this, you're too that. And I was so frustrated because I was like, the audience is laughing though. And I totally understand in the world of the play, they would always be like, in the Music Man, you, the pick a little lady, are not the star. It's about the Music Man. And I go, I know, but in this one, I would never fight it. I would just let it take over me. But internally, I would be stewing. And I'd be like, no, but like the audience is enjoying this one little moment that I'm doing. But it took people out of the director out of the world of the play for whatever reason. And one director, literally, it was like we were right about to go on. And she pulled me into the hallway. And I was like, oh, am I in trouble? Like kind of, am I in trouble? And she was like, and basically called me out. And it was like, you're doing too much in this one scene. Everybody's looking at you. The whole audience is looking at you and they're laughing. And you're taking away from the world of the play. But once again, I was like, but they're enjoying this one little moment. Yeah. It was so frustrating. And she literally just looked at me and she was like, you need to create your own show. And then I was like, okay, well, that doesn't really help with the show that we're in. I'm like about to go on. I have like a bonnet on. I'm like, okay, crying, of course, because I was like,
the music woman.
Exactly. Well, and it's also like, I don't want to disappoint anybody. That was like the last thing I wanted to do. I just thought people were enjoying it. But this note kept happening. Like I kept drawing attention but really I just thought I was being the character and like having fun, and I was getting a good reaction from the audience. I could feel it. I could literally hear them. People would come up to me and be like, oh my God, you were, whatever. I'd get really nice feedback. So I'm like, so it must be enhancing in some way, right? So it was super, super frustrating. And then but I took that, you need to just create your own show. Because while I think it was maybe kind of a dig, I was like, maybe I will create my own show, and you will see that I do know what to do. Like, I do know what I'm doing here, and maybe you're wrong. If she's listening, you were right. I I love you so much. But it was really, anyway, eye-opening. So through the pandemic and everything, I just was like, I was about to turn 25. Things were starting to reopen too. Like Davenport's had a reopen date, obviously all the precautions and everything. But I was like 25. Like that feels like a good milestone. Like there's something I can build around that concept of, it's a good round number. You can do stories. You can build something off that. And then once I came up with the idea, I was like, that's what it is. And then I was scrolling on Instagram and I saw Halfway to 50, I saw that somewhere and I was like, oh, that's the name. That's the name. And then I was like, you got to do it. It's like, and then I felt it and it scared me so much, but I was like, you got to just Butch Cassidy it and just jump off the ledge. So that's what I did. I was in a show and I wasn't utilized a ton. So when I was not on stage, I would just have my computer backstage and I would just be writing and writing and writing. People would be like, what are you doing? I'm like, shh. I'm in the middle of something. And when I announced it, there was a lot of excitement over it, which scared me even more because I was like, it's going to be bad. It's going to be bad. I'm too nervous. Like, I've never done this before. And then I was nauseous for like weeks leading up to it. I was so overwhelmed because I wanted it to be good. I wanted it to be, sure. I wanted people to laugh and I wanted my voice I didn't want it to clench up. I just wanted it because I know I could sing the songs. And then the day came and I went on and I couldn't believe, I was on stage and I was like, oh my God, I can't believe this is happening right now. Like internally, I'm doing these monologues and I'm like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. There's an audience and it sold out. It was a big crowd. So supportive, just, filled with supportive people. They wouldn't have let me fall in. That was the positive of that specific crowd. But I remember I came off stage and I was just shaking. And then my parents were there. I went back to their hotel because it was also my birthday. So they were we were hanging out and stuff. And then I took a shower. I still just shaking because it almost felt like, oh my God, something big just happened. Something just clicked that you've been waiting to do a long time.
Hell yeah.
And you got seen. People saw you for how you wanted to be seen, and you made people laugh by what you wrote. And I don't write the music, but my interpretation of the song. Mm-hmm. And I arrange the songs with my music director, and we do mashups and stuff like that. So something worked. I knew it wasn't perfect, and my voice was so scared and sore by the end. I was so nervous, but I was like, okay, so, I have to do it again. But then they wanted me to do it again, and I was like, yeah, absolutely, no problem. But then I was like, I can't do it again. I'm not going to be able to live up to anything that I just did. And then that second performance sold out really quickly. And I was like, no. You guys should not come to this. It was the same thing. It was I had 1 second of oh my God, you did it. And then it was you can't do it again. You'll never be able to accomplish this again. It touched too many people. You did too good of a job. And everyone's lying. Everyone's lying to you. They didn't actually like this. So then I had to go through a whole summer and go through that all again. And then we just started the journey. And I will say this is year 4 of it that we've just entered.
Senior year?
Senior year, High School Musical, senior year. So, and while I still get, it's so interesting because I still get nervous.
Sure.
Not as bad. But
If it doesn't scare you, it's not worth doing, right?
Right, because it is
Good
super
thing.
scary. I think it would be weird if I was like, it's nothing. I was talking to a stand-up comedian the other night, and he was so cute, and I was trying to act like, he was like, you don't get nervous anymore. Like, I just go up there and I do my thing. I was like, yeah, nerves? No, thank you.
Never heard of them.
Yeah, I didn't throw up before this, so. I didn't go to the bathroom, so. And I just was like, yeah, I totally don't get nervous anymore. So hopefully he bought that. If you're listening, that was a lie. And anyway, so it's interesting, the last couple shows, there's been this confidence that has come through. Oh my God, what a godsend. Finally, she's come through. And not a cockiness, but enough reputable mentors, comedians, whatever, have seen the show. They've worked with me. They've helped me. And enough of them have been like, you're okay. I mean, not like you're okay, but like, you got this. Like, you're going to be okay. You're, and then they compliment me and stuff like that. And I don't really believe them, but whatever. But something seems to be sinking in because there is this, like, I'm super nervous, but it's like, you've done this before. And I think it comes with time. It comes with the reps of doing it, of like, you got this. And every show is different. I'm always changing things out, always adding new stories, new songs, taking things out. That's what makes it the fun puzzle that it is. But it's like, at the end of the day, I know I'm going to be able to figure it out. And like, there was a show last year where I literally lost my voice before I went on. And I literally was backstage, and then my pants broke. My buttons burst out my pants. I was like, and then the microphone broke down on stage. And I think it was just this moment of, because I literally was about to have a panic attack backstage, because I was like, how am I going to sing? Like, I can't. It's like, but there were people out there, and it wasn't a huge crowd or anything, but they paid and they wanted to see the show. So I was like, I don't know what the hell's going to happen. But I made it through that show, and my friend was in the front row, and they were like, there was a moment when the mic broke for the second time. And that your eyes just went, fuck it. Fuck it. And I think I started to like scat as they fixed the microphone, because I didn't have a microphone. So I started to scat. I just said, you know what? I don't need it. Like, and then I started to riff, and I went off script.
Chicago improv, baby.
Yeah. And it, like, all the skills came out, and people were like really laughing. I mean, not that they don't laugh already, but like about oh, okay, she's just going off, and I'm just off the cuff. I'm talking about how bad I feel like I'm doing, how I don't have my voice. Like, I'm singing, talk about music, man. Singing Taylor Swift, like, and I just made it through. And then I got to the end of that show, and I literally, in front of the crowd, burst into tears, because I was like, that was so scary. Like, because I want it, like I said, I want each show to be so good. And I really market the show, and I really wanted people to come and have fun and relate. And when I was like, okay, I'm not 100% right now, like, what's going to happen? And I've never felt such a lack of confidence before going on stage too. So that was weird. And then, like, figuring out, oh my God, I still made it. And then some people were like, that was the best one ever. And that was the most, like, everything went wrong. Like, my pants were falling down. Like, it was just like a shit show. So since that performance specifically, where everything went wrong, I know that I can make it through just about anything that happens. And maybe that's too cocky, but I do feel that way now.
I wouldn't say so. I mean, you're halfway to 50 right now. 53.
It's true. 53.
With age comes wisdom and professionalism. I wouldn't say that's cockiness at all. I think you're moving with grace and wisdom and excitement.
Yeah, and I feel that too. Like, and I feel like I'm starting to get a lot of strangers at shows. A lot of people are just word of mouth. Like, and I'm like, these people aren't showing up, or these people aren't saying go to Laura's show if they don't actually mean it. Like, I have to remind myself, these people that are helping me, these mentors, the producer, all this stuff, like, they're not just doing this as a pity project. And I literally have to remind myself of that. And when I kind of let that settle, I'm like, you got this. Just go out and do it, always improve. There's always room for improvement, but it doesn't have to be this, like, you suck kind of narrative, you know?
Totally.
And that's the comedy world. You know, it's a pretty classic ideology.
Easy to be
But
hard on yourself.
for sure.
But at the end of the day, you're a fucking rock star, and you should acknowledge that, you know?
Yeah, in more or less, absolutely. And literally, like, I have a picture of Beyonce on stage with me. Like, I put her on the piano, and it's like just, I don't even reference it. It's just it's like, okay, she's here. I need that energy that she has, where she's just she works so hard, and she goes out and she just kills it because she's put in the work, and I have put in the work. I practice that shows so much. I'm going to open mics and opening for shows and stuff like that, trying out new stuff. I'm singing at Davenport's and I'm rehearsing all the time. Like, it's not like I'm just going up there and walking in totally blind and riffing for 90 minutes. It's like, no, this is a thought through thing. And this is like personal stories that are funny, but it's some very real moments in this show, and it can get pretty heavy at one particular point that's supposed to be heavy. But yeah, I have to own it.
You know, take us back to the really beginning of it. You know, when you first started thinking about doing your one-person show, how did you start writing? What was your writing process like? Were you sitting there by notebook? Did you, what fused all of that together to get you to start writing? And for anyone who's maybe considering doing their own one-person show, what would you do?
Yeah, I mean, everybody has their own work method. Mine was going into like a Google Doc, and I just I wrote a list of like all the embarrassing things that had happened to me. What's an entertaining story? Because I feel like I've always liked telling the stories that are a little embarrassing, or like, I feel like I have a funny way of telling the story. So I was like, I just wrote down anything I could think of. Then I started to think about, because I knew I wanted to sing. So I was like, what are all your favorite songs to sing at like Davenport's, or like at school when you were training? Like, what songs did you love there? What songs do you like listening to, or think have a good vibe or story or whatever? So I just started to write like a list. Then I think I dove into the music first. That seemed a little less daunting, and I had more of a skill set in that than writing per se. So I started to do like, okay, this would be a great opening song. This has like this sets the tone. That's kind of the tone I want. And I just started to listen to a bunch of music, and then I'd be listening to songs, and it would remind me like, oh, maybe I could relate that to the time that guy rejected me. And then it's like, I started to weave it together. And then you can change a lyric or something like that to kind of, it could even be like a pronoun or something. Like, it doesn't have to be like a big thing. You could, to relate it back. So I started to find little tricks like that too. And then I just started to write. So then I was like, okay, this boy rejected me. I was like, okay, just write down the story. And then I started to talk it out loud. So I would just be in my room and I would just say it, like maybe like how I would like tell my friends, and kind of the silly way I would say it. And then I would kind of write that down. I'd write down the silly stuff and then I would just keep saying it. And then maybe I would stand up. I would hold like my hairspray can as a microphone. So embarrassing. Say
Practice
this out loud.
how you play. Practice how you play.
Literally was just doing this before we got here because I have a show tomorrow. So I was practicing with my hairspray because you need to practice because you're not going to be like this. You have to practice with it.
Keep the cap on.
Yes. And usually there's it's a corded mic. So sometimes I have like a karaoke mic that I took from home and I'll use that in my studio apartment so I can practice having a cord.
Sure.
So anyway, I'm just talking. Then I would write that down. Talking, right. Now at the beginning, I was not going to open mics. I was not out in this stand-up world at all. So I don't really know where the confidence came from of you're going to do like a complete hour of stand-up after really having done no stand-up. But in the cabaret world, it's called it's banter. So that's what they call it. But I knew that my stuff was more stand-up. But I was like, no, it's like it's like banter. And I didn't want to say it's stand up because I didn't want people, if I was really bad at it, I was like, I'm not doing stand up. I'm doing banter. So joke's on you. And so yeah, but that was what was so scary about that first one too, because it's like, what makes you think you can go out and do an hour of stand up comedy when you've not done the grueling open mics or anything? But it didn't, I don't know, it didn't occur to me as much until maybe after, where it's like, oh my God, where I saw the video back and it's like, oh my God, you're like talking for so long. Anyway, so my process was just maybe do like 3 numbers, like do 3, a third of the show, and just tinker with it. And I would just practice it over and over and over and over again. Plus, I was super, I don't know if you can tell, I was super nervous about it. So that fueled it a lot too, of like, this has to be really good. So, and for whatever reason, I felt like I had a good instinct that I would know what was good and what was bad. I would record myself too, saying like the monologue back, to get my like inflection down or whatever, or like, does this make sense hearing it back? Or I'd record like I do a lot of physical comedy too. I'm like rolling around on the stage. I'm doing that whole thing. So, and then my music director was helpful too, because he would kind of help every once in a while with like, here's a good way into the song or whatever. Because he has done a lot of cabarets. He's in like an ABBA cover band. He's done so much. So he's very helpful too, but definitely more on the music element of it. Like maybe the way into the song, or here, I'd be like, oh, I want to do some, let's stop the song here and I'm going to talk in the middle and then we'll go back to the song. And there's so many different ways you can do it. It doesn't have to be monologue song. There can be a whole flow, but that only comes to with doing it multiple times.
Sure.
So that first time was very much, once again, jumping off the cliff. I was like, this is what I think it is. And then the reaction to that first one was so positive. And I know that I had a lot of support in that crowd, but I think people were genuinely surprised of how much they liked it. I think they came in being like, we got to support Laura. She's really nervous.
It's her, she can't bomb on her birthday.
Yeah, right. Right. Remember, we're going to applaud. Okay. Drink, just poundy back wine. Like, we got to get through this. But then there were people after genuinely in tears. Like peers, like people, it's not like mom and dad, which they were, but like, it was like, the people I serve with, like at the restaurant, like those, I was like, you're crying? And they meant it genuinely. Like, that was so good. You have to keep doing this. So then I was like, okay, this process that I'm in is working. So then I stuck with that for a while. And then it wasn't until the beginning of last year that I was like, I really wanted to dive into stand-up more. And I was like, I'm already doing it in this show, but I know that I can be better at it. And I do want to be like more a part of that community too, because there's such a division between improv, sketch, maybe more improv, sketch, and then stand up. So like, there's just like, I was like, I want to be able to do all 3 of these types of comedy, because I technically am doing all 3, but I want to actually be good at all 3. Because it's like, you're trained in improv, you're trained in sketch. But stand-up is always like this weird like thing where I respect it so much. And like a lot of the people I admire, started out as, stand-up people, the Steve Martins and the this and the, all that stuff. And a lot of them were improv people too. But I was like, it's just was such an art form. It's also such a male-dominated art form too, that seemed really scary. Because I remember going to one open mic way before the show. And I had like 2 minutes or 90 seconds. I was like, and I of course had way too long of a story, way too much. I'm jumping around. And there was like 10 men in the room. I don't think any of them laughed. They were all the other stand-up. So I understand they were all just focused on what they wanted to do. But it was very unsupportive. And I think I was like, okay, that wasn't. But I remember the host of it, she came up to me after and she was like, I think you did a good job. Because she heard me talking to my friend after. I was like, God, I bombed. Like, she's like, no, you didn't. She's like, that's a hard room.
Right.
And you didn't have that much time. And she's like, you have a great energy. And she was super nice to me. And it was a woman. female presenting. And I just remember feeling so safe. And I know that she meant it. And like, who cares what the other men thought? The one woman really liked me. So I was like, okay. But then it wasn't, that whole experience kind of threw me off. It was so nerve-wracking. And I really was like, boy. But then I started to do the show. And I was like, but people, you must be doing something right. It's also not 90 seconds for a story. You have like 5 minutes to tell a story if you need it. Mm-hmm. So I started to do more of those. I found a really great like open mic at IO, which is a lot of like women, queer comedians. I felt super safe there. But it's just interesting juggling that because it can be pretty intimidating. And if you're bombing, it's all you. But if you're winning, it's all you. So improv, you can get away with, oh my God, this is not going good. You're kind of like looking at each other, you're like, oh my God, we're bombing. And it's kind of silly. And then in sketches, you can just rewrite it. Like you can figure that out. It's like a little play. Yeah, stand-up's a whole other thing. So anyway, it's been a long journey of a lot of different things.
I find it really interesting that, you said you didn't have any stand-up experience and you just went forward and you kind of dove right into it.
Yeah.
I think it's really noble because I know a lot of friends who did theater growing up who would make some of the best stand-up comedians.
Really? That makes sense, though.
They're in front of a crowd regularly, just even like in a friend group. And they're so animated and this and that. I'm like, you need lights and a microphone. It's so amazing to see how some of those talents just kind of go hand in hand like that. So for new theater people out there, try doing some stand up. It's super adventurous. And it was interesting too, because, you were saying you were recording yourself with your hairspray, with a mic,
exactly.
With the wire hanging down.
Yep.
And most stand-ups, when they first get into it, that is how they start. Even some of the best, they'll do it like that.
Or they'll record. They listen to the same comedy albums, and they'll just like say that they'll speak the monologue with the comedian or something like that. Like I feel like I read so many autobiographies about comedians and I should stop because we need to be reading something. Like we need to take a break. Like there needs to be a division a little bit.
Sure.
But I love learning about other people's journeys. And so many of them were like, I was in the attic and I loved listening to Don Rickles' album and I would just say it back and I pretend like, and I was like, I so relate to that.
Yeah. If you're a parrot, just repeating.
Yeah, basically.
I'm kidding.
But then you start to get the inflection
you
down.
get the rhythm.
Yeah, exactly. And there is such a way to say a joke. It's all about timing.
And it's the same thing with even like the tech bubble, how YouTube exploded and everyone was quoting Dane Cook all the time. It's the same thing, right?
Right.
But I guess my question for you was, in those moments when you're rehearsing it like that at home, with your hairspray, with your wire that's not really plugged in.
Yep.
Talk us through it a little bit. How do you get set up into the zone? How do you get your mindset right for this practice / writing? And with the music and such, do you just do like karaoke type deal where you kind of do karaoke at home, or what's your process through that?
So usually it might start out as karaoke as I'm trying to figure it out. But once my music director gets involved, he'll make me a recording. Usually I'm singing in it so I can hear how I sound in it and also like sing along with myself. Because like I said, we're doing a lot of like mashups and we're taking keys down or up or, to fix things, put things together. And so we're always changing things up. So usually I have those recordings. But it can be hard. I have like 3 jobs. I'm always tired. And sometimes it's like, okay, so like today, like I had to wake up at 4:30 and go work at the gym that I work at till noon. And then I was like, you need to go work out because it's good for my brain. So then I worked out. And then I was like, by the time I got home, it was like 2:30. I knew I had to leave by 4:30 to get here. So I was like, okay, you got 2 hours. You got to shower. You got to have dinner. But then you have about an hour and a half where you should be practicing for the show tomorrow because I have a show at the Laugh Factory tomorrow. So I wanted to just wanted to run through what I wanted to do because I have like 15 minutes there. And I thought that's kind of a perfect example of like how I would do, the show. Because it's the same content. I'm just kind of pushing things together to try to fit into a 15-minute set. And I sing there tomorrow too. So I was like, okay, I got to make sure the track works and I have to just practice running through everything. So it's usually just me being like, okay, maybe I'll give myself like 10 minutes. You can scroll on TikTok or whatever, eat some Pringles or whatever. But then you got to get up and you got to do it. And then sometimes it's just me like, just get up and do it. Just get up and do it. And then once I'm starting it, and specifically I've noticed over the last year, because I used to just be so hard on myself. Like I would get so frustrated sometimes because I was like, this isn't coming out correctly, whatever. But I think it just is an experience thing. Like as I start to enjoy it, like I start like just riffing to my stuffed animal, my lamb stuffed animal that I've had since I was like 2 years old. But Lammy's awesome. Best audience in town. And I just start, I'll start saying the story and then I'll just start riffing. And then I start to enjoy it. And I'll laugh at myself. I'll be like, if I'm laughing at, if I think it's funny, I was like, okay, maybe that is funny. So usually I'm like, you got to write it down because you're going to forget. Always write it down because you're going to forget. Sometimes people say like, if it's good, you'll remember it. I'm like, no, I have too many things going on in my head. I have to write it down. So usually I write it down and then I'll just practice. I'll go back to the top and I'll try to incorporate the new riff in or whatever. So it comes out a little bit more effortless. And then I have to make the decision, do I try it tomorrow or do you just like not? Or are you too scared? Or you're like, do you need to do it tomorrow? Can you do it at another time or whatever? And then I just kind of go from there. And usually, honestly, what I do to make it easier mentally, I'll be like, you're not going to do the entire show. You're not, because my show's like 75 minutes. And then like 90 with the opener. So it's like, you don't need to do all of that. Why don't you do like the first three, like I said, like the first three songs and monologues. So the opener, the opening monologue, and then just go through. So then that makes it easier for me to compartmentalize, there we go, the situation a little bit better. So it's not so daunting. Because now I have to start coming up with Halfway to 54, which is the next iteration. And that's going to have a lot of new material. So I'm going to have to start doing that kind of rehearsal where it's just kind of riffing, talking out loud, and then I'll go to some open mics too and start working on things. But yeah, it does take me, because like I said, I'm tired. So I'm like, sometimes honestly, all I can give, I'm so exhausted, is I lie down on the floor or I'll lean up against my bed and I'll just talk it. I'll just say it out loud, because that alone feels like, okay, it's in you. It's in, you have it and you still, and maybe I'm not enjoying it a ton, but I'm like, just talking out loud makes me feel better. And that I will give myself the grace of being like, that can be your rehearsal today. You're super tired. And I feel like that has just come with practice too. And being like, you don't have to kill yourself. You don't have to do that. If you're really tired, you don't need to be rehearsing today. And if you feel the need to, do a little bit. What I do too is, so I have, like I said, a bunch of jobs. I'm often cleaning, and like in the gym I work at, there's like a soundproof studio. So if I'm cleaning in the studio, I'll like close the doors and I'll put on like the instrumentals in my headphones and I'll just like sing them. Nice. So I'm like killing two birds with one stone. Then I'm like, okay, I don't have to do this later. But then it's like, can you still remember all the words if you're multitasking? It's kind of a test. It's kind of a game. And all my jobs are super supportive too. So they're like, oh, Laura's just singing in the red room. That's what they call it, the studio. So they just let me go. So I do that a lot too. But yeah, it's a lot of people are like, how do you just rehearse by yourself? Why don't you have a director? Why don't you? And it's just like, I don't know. I don't want a director. I was just talking about this with my voice teacher yesterday too, because it's like, I don't want somebody to tell me what to do right now. Like, I'm sure I will have a director someday. And even getting the producer, I was nervous about, because I was like, I really do need money. But I don't want him to be like, you can't say that joke, or that's not funny, or that doesn't make any sense. But he literally pitched himself to me as, I might give you, helpful a helpful idea or something, but he's like, Laura, it's your show. At the end of the day, you make the decision. And that's what's so freeing about it. And the same as with the music director and then my tech guy too. It's like they all are just like, what do you want? And that's what makes them so special, is they truly understand that this is like my thing. But since it's my thing, it's my responsibility to make sure that I am prepared, that I have what they need. It's a lot of, you have to own it. And that's why I have a lot of people reach out to me. They're like, I want to do my own show. How do you, I want to do it. What do you have to do? And it's such a long, like, of course, like, please do it. Specifically if it's like a woman or like a female presenting or queer person, I'm like, yes, please, more. We need more of your voices. Absolutely. But it's a lot of work. It's not an easy, specifically if you want it to be to the level in my head of like success with it, and I do feel like I've gotten there to a certain regard, but it's taken so much work and so much stress and analyzing it and money. And it's one thing if you're like, I'm going to put it up for one night. It's kind of going to be a one and done thing. That's awesome. Totally do that. But if you want it to be like this thing, like your solo piece, so that so-and-so will see you or like whatever, like you got to put in the time for it. And I think I knew that going into it. I will say I was not surprised by the amount of work that it was required of it. But I think for some people, it is kind of like, oh, I guess I didn't, it seemed daunting, but I didn't know how daunting it really was. So anyway, I don't know if I answered the question.
Definitely. What are some other things that you think you've learned along the way? Obviously, getting into it, you get off, you start it, you don't necessarily always have a director or producer, and you got to make some money moves on your own. What are some other things that you learned business-wise while doing your own show?
Marketing. The marketing of it has been the most stressful. I hate marketing the show. I hate marketing the show. But I have had a lot of artists reach out to me being like, I love your marketing technique. And I'm like, what marketing technique? Like, it's like, but a lot of people have reached out to me and be like, how do you sell at your shows? How do you do it?
Sheer talent.
Just intelligence and smartness. No, it's taken throughout the years. What's the best way to promote the show? And honestly, it's owning it with confidence. Not being like, oh my God, you do your own show? Yeah, it's kind of like this little thing that I do. It's like not a big deal. Like, in shutting it down. If I'm, specifically now I've been opening for like an improv team or something, I have to own it. Like, I have to be like, oh my gosh, you liked my set. If somebody comes up to me, that's so awesome. So I do my own show, actually. So if you like that, you probably would like the show. So I got this host spiel. Then I have these little business cards with like a little cartoon face of me, and then like a QR code with all my Instagram, my website, my TikTok, my whatever. And then I have them all written out too, and I always have them with me. So then, and often what I'll do too is I'll just give them out to people whether they ask for them or not. If they're just like sitting down signing their checks or whatever, I'll be like, hey, I'm just gonna drop that off for y'all. That's just, it's just, if you're interested, you should come to one of my shows sometime. And I'll just go around the club, la 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 la, and I'll just throw it in people's faces. Sometimes I find them on the ground after, but it doesn't matter. At least I put myself out there.
Shoot your shot.
And there's a way to do it that's not annoying, I think, where it's just kind of like, hey, this is awkward, but here's that. If you want to come, that's where you're kind of like throw it away. To the people that come up to me, I really do the pitch because they took the time to come up to me. And then it's the postcards. It's like I make postcards. I have my logo or whatever with the date, with the location, with a description of the show that if somebody, they could put it up on their fridge. It's always right there for them to see. The website, always updated. The website's super expensive, but it's so worth it because that's how people buy the tickets. I never have, like, if somebody's like, where do I buy tickets? I'm always like, lauradellis.com. I don't say, oh, it's at the Den, so go to the Den's website. I'm always like, Laura Dellis. I want people to go to my website and then they can click on the link, but they can see all my videos if they want. They can look at my pictures. They can read my little bio that I wrote up or something like that. once again, all my links are on there. Then you go into the Instagram, the TikTok, you got to put clips up. I call it Clip Town. You got to go to Clip Town. And unfortunately, all comedians hate Clip Town, but it is the way to make it work. Then sometimes what you have to do is you have to promote it, which sucks because it's just with politics and everything right now, all of the social media really sucks. Just personally, it's hard to give money to people that, I don't know, are using the money kind of poorly. But anyway, you have to do it because it's my $15 is hopefully helping me get richer someday, and then I'll pay it all back to all the charities I want. So then you got to spend like $15 and promote it, and then you do that. Then you go out on the street and you stand outside the annoyance and you're like, hey, comedy show tomorrow. Like a couple days before, comedy show. And that can be annoying. That I will say, not my favorite. That's always a last ditch effort if I feel like ticket sales are low or something like that. But there's all these little tips and tricks. Then you got to reach out to the theater and be like, hey, can you promote me on your website? Can you post? I mean, usually they have you on your website because you have to sell the ticket. It's a ticket link. But like, can you put me in your newsletter? Can you post me on your Instagram? Like, that's all stuff that you have to own. And that's where it's like CEO Laura has to take over. And I do feel like I'm like filling out like 10,000 emails, doing cover letters and be like, hey, I'm Laura. Like, this is the thing. Can you, I went on the news. People reached out to me and they're like, how did you get on the news? Like, how did you do that? And the amount of times I had to submit myself to the news, and then I had 2 people reach out on my behalf being like, we like Laura, we like her show, put her on the news. That didn't work. Then I remembered that I had been interviewed by one of the anchors for a previous thing. So I reached out to her. I didn't even know her that well, but I was like, any way you can help me at all? She said yes. She then had to go up to the producer in person twice, 2 separate times, and be like, Laura, we need Laura. Mm-hmm. Then the producer reached out. Wow. But it took so much. And then it could be really easy for a lot of people too. I don't know. That was just my experience. And it was great. It got me so much exposure. But that's what I'm saying is I have to own it. That's the thing I've learned is it's like, once again, people are not coming to this show because they're being forced to. Sometimes they are. Like the man who fell asleep in the second row a couple weeks ago, you did not want to be there. And I respect that. And I saw you and I love you too. But his wife next to him having the time of her life. And the show was for her. Nice. But she came because she wanted to come. And she said, come on, honey, we're going to this show about this. This girl's going to tell us about her life. So I have to own that. Yeah. And then I have to market the hell out of it because that's the only way it's going to grow. And now I'm like, I really want to do a show in New York. So I've had to pitch myself to New York. And then it's like, it's not just me too. It's my music director, it's my tech guy, and it's my producer. So then I got to pitch it to them. And we got to look at the money of it all. There's just so many things that go into it, but I believe that I should be doing the show in New York too. Mm-hmm. I want to branch out. I want that. So I believe in it so much. I'm going to pitch it to them. We're going to figure out the money of it all, and we're going to make it work. And they trust me. I trust them. It's a teamwork thing. But that would not happen if I didn't have any confidence in the thing. And that's only come with time. Senior year. I guess. Yeah. Who knows where I'll go to college next year, but I can't wait to see, hopefully, that it just grows and I just own it even more.
Totally.
And I can even tell that in the show. Like, I can tell my voice is so much freer. Like, it's not tight. It's not, or it's still a little bit tight. We can always work on that. But it's not like the note, people are like, you're, like my parents or whatever, close friends are like, your voice has never sounded so, I didn't know you had that range. And I said, honestly, I think it's just because I'm relaxed up there. Like I'm owning it more, and I'm not so scared that the audience hates what they're watching. They are enjoying what they're watching. But that's only come with me doing it for the last couple of years.
Sure.
So
sure.
Yeah, definitely the marketing thing though would be the biggest thing.
You know, you've come so far in such a short time. You really popped off. You had a glow up, as the kids would say. Quite the glow up.
Yeah, I guess.
You know, where would you like to be maybe 5 years down the line? If money weren't an option, you were able to do your own show, what would you like to do with your career?
Well, it sounds a little crazy. So I always feel like
throw it in the universe. Come on.
I know, but people ask me that, and it sounds, I just like have so many goals that sound insane, like to the common ear, or they're like, oh, you're gonna go do that. Okay, sweetheart.
Test us.
So I will say, because I don't want anyone to think that I'm insane or like, okay, okay. I would like to go to New York. I'd like to live in New York. I would like something to take me to New York, hopefully. I don't quite know what that, well, actually I do know what it would be, but I'm not saying it. And in a dreamscape, that would take me there, or the show would take me there, or I booked something on Broadway, or I was filming a television show or something like that. Like I'd like something to take me to New York. I think I'd like to go there first, and then I'd like to live in LA. So I'd like to live in all three of the big cities. I'm from Minnesota originally, so I always wanted be going back and doing shows there. I did my first shows there 2 weeks ago, and it was really great. So I always want to go back to Minnesota and support, that community there. But it's definitely probably New York, and just traveling around. I don't think I want to be like a club comic where have like 50 dates in a month and I'm going from there, all across, zigzagging across all these little clubs. I don't want to really just do stand up. And to those people, I respect you. I love you so much. Like, you're insane in the best way. I still want to do sketch. Like, I want to own my writing, and because I really do feel like I enjoy doing that. I love performing, though. I don't want to just be a writer. So it would be like something I would write and then I would perform in. Something like that with my friends that I made here and that we're all successful and we're in like a show. And we could put on our own show in like a professional setting in New York. That would be really cool. Or here too, just like a professional, like get a good funding opportunity and like put on our sketch show and like really have no bounds. That would be really cool because they're all super talented, and I'm really lucky to be in that group. Yeah, and continuing to act too. Like I have put a lot of money into acting. Like, so I love drama. Still love musical theater, obviously, but like to do like some sort of dramatic film, an indie film, something like that, where I can, because I do have that in me, and people do see it in the show too. But to tap into that more would be great too, just to show that I guess have more to prove to myself too. It's not just about making people laugh. There's more to it, because as everybody knows, comedy, is all truth. There's always truth to it. So, and that could be sad sometimes. Yeah, that's as I don't want to be super specific because I don't want to say it and then it not come true, and then people are gonna watch this 10,000 years from now, and they're going to be like, that Laura Dellis, why the hell did she think she was going to go to Mars?
Well,
she was going to perform her show on Mars? Idiot.
Hey, weirder things have happened.
I guess.
Weirder things
in
have
this
happened.
time, in this day and age, I guess anything's possible, but
you know what it is, though. So later on when you watch this, after it happens, you're going to be like, I fucking did it. I didn't say what it is.
Oh my God. Future Laura, if you're watching this, you did it, baby. I love you.
Invest in Apple.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, exactly. I hope you're really wealthy. Yeah. So that's where I'm at with that.
So what's it like growing up in Minnesota? Or what part of Minnesota do you grow up in?
I grew up in the suburb of St. Paul. And it was great. I had a really good time in Minnesota. My dad's family helped found the suburb that we're in with the fire department. So I like to say that because now it's a lot of soccer moms and chains. But I do like to say that I was there. My family, our roots are in the soil there. I make it really clear. I just lay it out.
I had to think about the chains part. You said soccer moms in chains.
Chains, like,
and I was imagining soccer moms in chains. But now I'm like, okay, like
the chains of their life.
Chains.
Yeah. No,
Locked
yeah,
up.
restaurant chains. And like,
I'm locked up.
yeah, exactly. I mean, I guess there's actual chains there too, but not as many as you would think. But yeah, so it's just kind of like a typical suburb now, but the Dellises have been there for a sec. It was great. I always knew that I loved to perform. That's always been the thing. I think that's what makes the show work too, is it's because I know that this is always what I've wanted to do. So, and I knew that when I was younger too. Like, it was watching Singing in the Rain and The Sound of Music, and my dad really introduced me to a lot of those, and he would take the whole family. The theater scene in Minneapolis and St. Paul is awesome. So we would, go and see shows all the time, specifically musicals, and I would just be like, that's it. That's what I'm going to do. And then I think I was always singing, and my parents encouraged that to a certain extent. But then I started to get like a voice teacher and stuff like that in like middle school, and start to kind of learn the ins and outs of that. But then I always was like, okay, I think I can sing. Like, like I'm like trained. Like, I felt like I had that confidence. So then I started to do like theater camps and stuff like that. My parents were super supportive with that. I mean, we're like middle class. We're not like a super wealthy family, but they always made sure that like I was in a camp or something like that, because I wasn't doing sports or anything. I wasn't doing that. But I would dance. I would do dance. I wasn't good at dancing, but it was always just like, what performance thing can we get Laura in? My sister was very similar. She loved like cheerleading and stuff like that, but she also was like, she did voice lessons for a while, and we've just always been kind of a performing family. And my dad does TV and film. He does like, he produced and wrote and edits a local TV show, a couple throughout my lifetime, that air throughout the Midwest, about like special interest stories and inspiring stories and sports stories and all sorts of stuff. So I would grow up and go with him on shoots and just carry the tripod or carry the mic, and just be around. And I met all these interesting people, some kind of like minor celebrities, some, I guess. I met the brother from That's a Raven, Kyle Massey.
Nice.
That was a big moment for me. And his brother. And then they said, Kyle Massey was like, oh, my ex's name was Laura. And I was like, oh, that's nice. And then they laughed. And I was like, oh my God. So maybe that's when I knew I could do comedy too. I don't know. Maybe it was Kyle Massey. I'll have to thank him for that. But anyway, so I would grow up and I would go to all these sets and do that sort of thing. And I was just always around that stuff because I wanted to be. I made an effort. And then like high school, I went to that high school because they had a good theater program. And like we could afford it and we could make it work and stuff like that. And like day one, freshman orientation, I walked in. I shook the director's hand and I was like, I think I'm going to be spending a lot of time in here. I was like, who are you? Like, I think about that. I was like, what the hell, Laura? Why don't you just, I don't know, do a monologue or something? Goodness gracious. I know.
You meant it.
There was that confidence, and then it completely went away. I had it for like 0.2 seconds.
It's like, we're going to have to knock her down a peg or two.
Yeah, shut up.
Another one.
Another one. Oh, good. Another one of these. But then I spent all my time in the theater in high school. I wasn't very social. I had friends. I think, honestly, I made friends from people seeing me in shows. And then they would be like, specifically as I started to get like bigger roles, they would think that I was like, oh my God, she seems so cool. And I'd be like, yeah, I'm super cool. And then I could make people laugh too. And that was always, because I never felt like I was like the prettiest or anything like that by any stretch, but I knew that I could make people laugh. And I knew that that was my way in. So then I was like, I could be friends with like the popular people, the jocks or whatever, because I could always make them laugh. So that was always, then I started to notice, oh my God, the comedy side of this too is amazing. And then I realized that so many of my favorite movies were just like the Steve Martins, the Marty Short, the Amy Poehler, the Tina Fey. I mean, it goes on and on and on. So then you're like, oh my gosh. And I just respected those people so much. So anyway, my parents could feel that. I don't think it was really until my junior year when I landed one of the leads in the musical, and it was like my first big part, and I really had to sing in it, like an actual, like, it's a song I still sing to this day because it means so much to me. It's a really funny song. but it's a hard song for a sophomore, or sorry, junior in college, or in high school to sing. So, but I remember they really saw it. Like when I did that role and I was funny in it. And actually for that 2-week span of that show, I was the most popular girl in school, and I'm proud to admit that. I remember like teachers would come out of class and they'd be like, "Oh my God, you were," I'm like, "You're teaching right now. Go." I was like, "What the hell are you doing out here?" And like the football player, I'd be like in lunch and the football player would be like, "Oh my God, you were so funny." And I'd be like, "What are you talking about? Like, me?" And he's like, "Yeah, I just really enjoyed you in the show." And I was like, "Are you flirting with me? Like, what the hell is happening?" I'm like, "I'm covered in acne." I'm like, "What the hell are you doing?" I just remember feeling like such a superstar. And I think I always knew that I was like, I can do this. Even if I didn't like have all the confidence, I've always known this is what I could do. But then for other people to see it, oh my God. And that's what's so cool about this show now too, is I just constantly get to reintroduce people to that idea. But anyway, then from there it went, I had to start doing the whole musical theater college track, which I knew that's where I wanted to go to school for that. But I don't know if you guys know anything about that, but that is an incredibly stressful process because it's not just college apps and an essay or whatever. You have to go to New York or you have to come to Chicago or one of the big cities and literally audition yourself for the big conservatories all over the country. And it's very, very stressful. And you have to have the perfect song that showcases you in literally 30 seconds because they're seeing hundreds and hundreds of kids. I remember too, I got this cute little dress at like Forever 21 or something. And I was like, okay, I feel like I look cute. I remember I went to New York. I walked into the Pearl Studios, which is like this infamous audition place. Literally 5 girls right away. Boom, 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 boom. We all had the same dress on. I was like, okay. No problem. I'm going to wow with my comedy. But that was another thing where it was like, oh my God, this is so hard to be seen because that girl can do like a quadruple pirouette. That girl can belt she's like, it's like freaking American Idol. Also keep in mind, you can hear everybody. So you can hear that woman singing Dreamgirls. You're like, oh my God. You can see the woman over there into the splits, down, leaping in the air. You're like, can't do that. So confidence down. I was like, oh no. And then I remember I walked into CCPA, which is the Chicago College of the Performing Arts, and the 2 people who were there, it instantly was like a different vibe. Like, I think I cracked a joke. I think I was so delulu. Like, I was so like, oh, this day sucks. And I think I cracked a joke and they laughed. And I was like, oh, because usually, honestly, guys, they're not even looking at you. And you're like so scared. Because this is also college too. This isn't like, oh, okay, if I don't get the joke, no problem. This is like, oh, I want to go to college. I want to train for this. It's not everybody's path, but I did. I wanted to go to college and have that, at least that backbone of training. And they're not even looking up. It was a very much, for many of them, it was like, you need us, we don't need you. Like, we have plenty of views. And this school I walked into did not make me feel like that. Like, they instantly were like, oh my God, hi Laura, like super duper nice. I remember I sang and I finished and I did my monologues or whatever. And the dean looked at me of the school and he said, you're going to go so far in this. And I remember being like, what? Like, jaw dropped. I was literally like, excuse me? Like, because none of the other, nobody even looked up when I walked in. There was something about being seen. Once again, I was like, oh my God, please let me get into this school. And I remember there was a woman there and her name was Jane, who would become my dance teacher. And she's literally, come to find out, she's like Tony nominee, like icon, worked with Bob Fosse. So nice to me. And she was laughing too. And I was like, okay. I remember leaving and being like, what the hell? And then I was like, don't get confident. Because honestly too, with auditions, specifically acting auditions, just because they're talking to you doesn't mean that they're gonna pick you. Honestly, it's more the opposite. And if you're a casting director, you know what I'm talking about. When you talk to us, you get our hopes up a little bit, and it could even be like, oh my God, I see that you did stuff with The Annoyance. Oh my God, my best friend works, or whatever. It could be something really simple, but you're like, oh my God, I think they like me. They talk to me. And then it's like, you never hear anything. But there was something about that interaction where I was like, okay, cool. And I remember going to mom and dad and being like, I think that went really good, but I have no idea. And then I got in, but it was so expensive. And then I was terrified. It was the one school I got into. I auditioned for like a lot of schools, and we made it work. We'll be in debt for the rest of my life, but hey, I have an acting degree. So suck on that. And it was totally worth it because it brought me here and it made the connections that I got and all that stuff. So
real quick.
Yeah.
Do either of you have your volume on right now? I keep hearing a little feedback.
Okay. Well, I think that might have been me.
We should be
somehow
good.
that got turned on. Okay. Anyway, you got to hear double, so you're welcome. That will haunt you in your nightmares tonight.
Double Dellis.
Double Dellis. That's the name of my next show. But anyway, that's how I got introduced to Chicago and everything too. So Minnesota was great. I am super white, and so that definitely helped things go smoother there. But my parents are super supportive and always there for me. And there are people that I'm related to who have maybe some of the other kind of anxiety, and I have a lot of addiction in my family. I haven't dealt with addiction, but it runs rampant on both sides, like really, really heavily. And I think my parents were aware of that, and just like they caught any sort of warning sign between my sister and I. Not that we were bad kids, or we weren't like drinking at 10 or anything like that, but I think they saw the anxiety, they saw the depression or whatever. My sister has like dyslexia, like what's stopping her from doing well in school that could lead down to a path that, you know what I mean? It all weaves together. So they were really good at catching it, and they had the resources to help us, through that. We had health insurance, we had that, all that. So, and I really dealt with anxiety throughout high school it's where it hit a high. And I think it was before going into college, because I was really nervous because I didn't drink, I didn't do anything, and I still don't to a certain degree. It just freaks me out, but it really freaked me out in high school. Like I couldn't even be around it. And I was going to an acting school in Chicago. I was like, girl, you got to figure it out. How are you going to go anywhere? And I remember my mom was like, maybe we go on something just to take it down a little bit. Yeah, and that's what back to the Lexapro, it all loops back. But anyway, so that was the type of support where it was like, we noticed this in you. We love that you love spending time with us, but maybe there's a reason that you're not wanting to go to any parties or anything. Like, what's the point? So they were just really good at that. So yeah, I'm really lucky, which makes my depression and everything so much harder, because it's like I don't have anything to base. Like it's like if I had like mean parents or something, I could base it on that, but I don't have anything. So it's like I'm the villain in my own story, but whatever, we work through it. And we've gotten better. But I even talk about that in the show. Like I do this whole song where I live into the narrative that my parents were really mean to me this whole time, because it's really hard for me to portray myself as the villain when it's a one-woman show. So that's been fun, but it's just not true. So anyway, it was a good childhood, and it pushed me to where I am now. It all kind of worked together in a way. Yeah.
It's interesting. You're talking about going into the college and branching out into the world and showing up, and you're one of 5 women in the same dress. How do you stand out from there? And I found a lot of people, especially folks who make it big on YouTube and social media and stuff, where they have that feeling of like, damn, I could just go to 500 different auditions, not get a single call back for any of them. But if I was just to do my own thing and really stick to my guns and do it and be around, and it sounds like, with CCPA, that was maybe your place where it's like, okay, maybe if I do just stick to my guns, I double down on myself, double down Dellis, and
Double down Dellis.
and really believe in myself. And do you think there's something to that of people having positive affirmations or being told, hey, you can do this? Or do some people, do you think just sheer will and stupidity and crazy balls to the wall energy make it happen?
I think both can be true. I think there's maybe healthier way to dive into it, but then you look at like the Belushis of it all or something, and he just went for it. Like but it also didn't turn out that great for him. So like his life got shortened significantly because it was just him being like, I'm so good. I think I'm good.
Wait, blue cheese guy? Who's blue cheese?
Belushi.
Oh. Belushi.
Or blue cheese guy too.
I thought you said blue
Thank you for
cheese
going
guy.
along with it though.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Okay.
Belushi.
Just clarifying. John
Chicago's
Belushi.
own Belushi. I don't know why.
Brother.
I don't know why that's the example that popped into my head, but like that energy of I just remember reading a book where he was like, he would just go on stage at Second City and like would not interact with the group, the improv group. He would just go out and like and do his characters. And yeah, he was really good, but it's like, okay. Hey, it worked out for him. He's a legend. But I needed people to tell me, I needed the important people, the Jane Lanier from college or whatever, to be like, you're very good. I needed somebody to look me in the eyes and be like, you got it. That wasn't like mom and dad. Like I needed like actual people. And I do remember in high school too, I started to get these theater awards too, these spotlight awards, which became an infamous saying in our theater group, where like professionals from the Minneapolis theater scene or whatever would come and they would judge the performance. And you would get like your like own Tony Award basically if you were good enough. And I remember all I wanted was one of those awards to prove to everyone once again that I could do this. And then I ended up getting like 3 of them throughout my 4 years. And that helped. That little thing helped so much because people took me seriously. Then I got to school. I did not feel like I was talented enough to be at that school. I felt like everyone was better. I just was like, I don't know how I got here, but I'm here. And it's not a cut program, which some programs are, that after the first year you have to audition again and then they'll cut you, which is terrifying. But I knew that they couldn't cut me unless I couldn't afford it anymore. And at that point, and throughout the 4 years, I was able to make it work. So I did work study. I was at school all the time. I was always with teachers, either in the production office, learning stage management, or in like mopping the dance studio. So I was in the dance conservatory, or I was getting voice lessons, or I was vacuuming and I was in the voice lesson area. Like I was just always around it. And then people they started to teach me and stuff like that. And, but I really did need people to be like, you have a great voice. But then it would take that one person being like, yeah, your voice is different. Like, I'd be like, okay, well, I'm going to go. I'm never coming out of my room now. I'm going to go to the bathroom right now and cry. But there was enough people that were like, keep going, believe in yourself. I needed that. And some people don't. Some people have this, they just know. But I do feel like you need to fight it. I think that's important, is you do need that struggle sometimes of being like, what's going on? I know I need to be doing this, but I don't feel like I'm talented enough to do it. Is this just something that I love, but I don't have what it takes to actually make it? That's a line I use in my show, because that's like my worst fear, is I actually don't have it at all. It's all made up. But enough people, like I said. And then I got out into the real world, And I started to make connections and like genuine, like professional connections. And then in the comedy world too, it's connection city constantly. You are always making connections. And then I'm meeting like these big comics, then they have me open for them, or they want me to sing something, or they'll have me on their radio show, or I'm on, whatever. Like it's all connections. Oh, can we send this to somebody in New York? Oh, I know this person who works here, blah, blah, blah. Maybe I can help you out. And I'm like, once again, they would not be offering to do this if they didn't actually think that you had it.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Sure.
So then you got to own it again. So, but it took me a long time. To the people, once again, that just inherently know it, they don't need anybody to see it. I do think it's possible. I just think sometimes that you need that give and take to come to the other side where I'm not. I know I'm only 27. There's so much life to live. But over the last couple of years, specifically with this show, to finally feel like, okay, I'm owning this a little bit. Let's go for it more. Took so many people being like, we support this, we believe in you, blah, blah, blah. So anyway, I think both can work, but this worked for me.
Little love behind you never hurt.
Yeah,
right?
never hurt anybody. Yeah.
Right. Absolutely. Love always.
Yeah.
When it comes to harsh criticism, have you ever dealt with any harsh criticism? And maybe what's your worst roast you've ever gotten? How'd you handle it?
I have received a ton, but acting school, I mean, that's literally the point of acting school, is to give you criticism, for better or worse. That's what makes acting school kind of controversial. Specifically, my school was not perfect by any stretch, and the school knows that. If they're watching right now, you know that. They've definitely had their problems with administration and teachers of the past and whatever, and how they would deliver the criticism, what could be very disrespectful and aggressive. And I would see that happening to my classmates, like literally being like hit with a yoga mat or getting water dumped on them if they forgot the words.
Sheesh.
Or locked out of the classroom if they were 2 minutes late, like you can't come in. That was terrifying. And I was like, I never ever want to deal with that. So I lived in fear that they wouldn't, that would happen. So luckily I was very cognizant of being like, I don't want to get in anyone's way. I don't want to step on anyone's toes. And I think the people that did stand up for themselves and said, this is a problem, they got more of the backlash, which sucks.
Terrible.
But that's kind of life, unfortunately. So my big thing is I am a people pleaser. I'm trying my best at it, is I just don't want people to be mad at me. So I really try not to receive like really mean criticism. But you know what's been hard too is like on the social media of it all too, because my clips, they're nothing viral or anything, but they're starting to get more views and stuff like that, and random people are watching them. And then they are there's like that, I'll get like a comment that's like, I can't believe anybody would find this funny. This sucks. And then it's like, okay. No problem. And sometimes I'll respond back like, thank you. Like something like that, like heart. But then sometimes I'm like, that really hurt my feelings. And then I'll like try to like delete the comment or something like that. Like, I don't want anyone else to see this. That stuff I think I'm going to have to work on. And hopefully someday I'll be successful enough that I'll just have like a social media manager and I won't ever have to look at social media ever again.
Sure.
Unfortunately, it is part of the gig right now. Like bookings are made by the number of followers you have. Agents look at before they sign you, how many followers does she have, whatever. It is part of the game. But that's going to be interesting. The harshest critique, though, honestly, was that Music Man thing. When she pulled me outside seconds before going on and basically told me that, like, everything I'm doing is wrong. And we were, like, the final weekend of performances. I was like... And like I said, all I wanted to do was impress... she was another Tony nominee. Of course, they always are. And I was like, I just want you to like me so much. Like, I had been nothing but, like... bowing down to her the whole. She called me Lauren for like the first couple rehearsals. I just didn't even correct her. I was like, and people were like, is she calling you Lauren? I'm like, it's fine. She can call me Lauren. It's no problem. They're like, you need to go tell her. I'm like, no problem. Anyway, that was a pretty harsh one. And then I had a theater director in school, in high school, and she could be pretty rough too. Although she could tell that I was always trying my best, so I think she would lay off me a little bit. But that could be pretty dramatic too. High school theater in general could just be dramatic.
Sure.
And if you're watching from high school theater, you know what I'm talking about. I'm not saying anything new. I'm not saying anything that they all don't already know. So, but yeah, that Music Man one specifically was like, that kind of took me out for like, I mean, I had to go on stage immediately after it happened, but I remember being like, I'm going to have a panic attack. Like, I'm going to cry so hard right now, but I literally can't because I have to go to Iowa and be a townsperson in Iowa right now.
It's your villain origin story right
Oh
there,
my
for sure.
God.
Well, on the flip side of that, what's the best criticism you think you've ever received?
Best criticism.
I mean, you've gotten a lot of awards too. Recently winning Best Comedian on Stand-Up from the Chicago Reader. That's pretty big. That's very, very big.
Yeah, that doesn't make any sense. I can't even believe that I won that. I mean, it does make sense because I work really hard. That's really cool. The comedian, that was really cool.
Because it's not stand-up, it's banter, baby.
And it's also like, it doesn't, yeah, it's just like all of it. Like, it's because that is what I love, is doing all of it. So that's what's so cool, is it's not just the show, although the show is definitely, I think, what helped get it. But I do so many different things, and it's really, really nice. And I don't take that for granted at all. I would say, honestly, I have one of my mentors is Steve Cochran. He's a big, legendary stand-up. And I met him through, my dad knew him back in the day. My dad's friend knew him. But anyway, he originally decided, he's like, oh, I'll interview her and help her promote her show. As kind of like okay, you'll get a couple minutes and we'll be done. And then he instantly saw something in me. I think what was just kind of like a favor, like whatever, turned into like, oh, you're really delightful or something. I don't know, his words. And it turned into this, like, I'm going to help you. Like, I believe in you. And then he came and saw the show. He sat front row center. I walked out. I almost threw up on top of him. And I was like, you've got to be kidding me. He, like, has turned down writing for SNL, like, 3 times. He knew, like, Prince. Like, I'm like, what the hell? What are you doing here? And he brought his wife. And he was laughing, so complimentary about the whole experience. And then I got to open for his New Year's show, which in like a big theater with like real comedians, like guys who've done it, like who have worked with like Nate Bargatze and like all these like, and then there's me. I'm like, I'm gonna sing a song and do some stand up, like, but I'm like, he just believed in me. And then I ran off stage and I was like, I think they liked it. And he was like, you did such a good job. Like, instantly was like, you did a great job. Wow. And not a guy that would lie to me. I think my producer, Joe, too, he's not in the industry, but he is somebody who I met through the gym I work at, who's very, like, clear if he likes something or doesn't like something. He's not gonna lie to you. When he decided, I want to help you, I want to help fund part of this, I want you to succeed, that was insane. Because I knew that he was not lying. There's no way. He has like Balenciaga sunglasses he wears at all times. Like, he's not gonna lie to me. That was insane. And then I have like a mentor, and her name's Janelle Snow, and she's like really big, a big actress in town too. And she used to be my teacher at school, but I was so intimidated by her because she had so much experience with on-camera stuff and, like, knew everybody, like, anybody. And I remember I took her class after school in the middle of the pandemic, so it was, like, a virtual on-camera class. And I remember talking to her and being like, I was very frustrated with the fact I couldn't get representation. Once again, I didn't feel like I was being seen, like, for what I could offer. And she just, in the moment, was like, I'm just going to help you get one. And I was like, what? Like, you know, like, she has so many obligations. Like, she went to Harvard and Yale. Like, it's like, what the hell? And she's like, no. I don't understand. She's like, I don't understand it either, actually. And she knows everything. You know everything, Janelle. And she just said, I'm going to help you. And then it started to this beautiful mentorship of like, we don't talk, you know, every week or something like that, but I can text her and be like, oh my God, I just won this award, like, you know, or whatever. Like, oh, look at me, I was just on TV or something like that. She's just always there. So those are 3 people that it's like, and she's another person too. She's so busy. There's no way she'd be helping me if she didn't actually want to help me, you know? And you need those people where they're like, they're not going to bullshit you. Why would they waste their time? There's all 3 of them are so busy. Why? So that's, those 3 have made it very clear that like, just keep going. Do exactly what you're doing right now. Pedal to the metal. Put the pedal down and keep going. Yeah.
Do you have any other projects on the horizon that you'd like to promote or talk about?
I am going to do the next iteration of my show. So it's going to be halfway to 54 because I'm going to be turning 28. Boy. The math doesn't math anymore, folks, but it's comedy, doesn't matter. It was halfway to 50, 52, 53, now 54. And that will be in June at some point. The date has not been set, but trust me, my marketing technique, you will hear about it, if you like it or not. So I always am promoting that, and then we'll go from there. I have some ideas that just aren't confirmed yet. I'm going to be starring in a play called Pregnant Pause in Logan Square at a theater that I can't remember, but I'll post about it. My friend Will Inman wrote it, and they are amazing. And it's like a nice dramatic role. It has funny moments, of course, but it's going to be a really good acting role, which I'm excited to dive back into. That will be in April. And then Motorcycle Rocket Ship 2 will be performing. I don't think we're going to be at the Annoyance in the spring. I think we're finding a new theater, so we'll let you know. That will be up on socials. But that is genuinely a really good sketch show. I know there's a lot of sketch shows out there, and I know they're all great. But this one, we do digital and live, too. We mix them together. So it keeps you on your toes. It's not, a bunch of just long-form sketches, which can just be a little tedious sometimes. And then I do improv, too, with Off-Brand Funeral Band, which is associated with Motorcycle Rocket Ship, so I'm doing a bunch of that. And then I'm just bopping around. Come to Davenport's. I sing there on Saturday nights. Yeah, I'm always doing stuff.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Do you have any special shout outs of anyone you want to give a shout out to?
I'd like to give a shout out to Mickey York, my music director. Mickey York, everybody, is so amazing. He is the best music director. He's also the sidekick of the show. It's giving like late night, like Conan and Andy. I mean, I'm not saying I'm Conan, but you get what I'm saying. It's that idea of like the sassy sidekick. He is so funny and silly and sassy, and always puts me in my place. But he's so talented. So I always love him forever and always. Eric Streibig, my tech guy and kind of stage manager. They are so awesome. They have done every single show. They know how to light me. They know all my beats. They know everything. I will be touring with them for the rest of my life. And Joe, of course, the producer, once again, who gives me money. And I don't know why he helps me, but he does. And I love you for that. So, yeah, those are my big shout-outs.
Very cool. We've been going for about an hour and a half. We can keep rocking and rolling if you're down for it.
Yeah, we can do it. We can do a couple more.
Cool. Yeah.
I got to wake up early again tomorrow, so I could talk about myself all night.
Let's get in the deep of it. What's your maybe not your Roman Empire, but what's your big conspiracy that you're super into? Do you believe in conspiracies? Do you believe in any of?
I'm really into the Blake Lively, Jason Baldoni case going on right now.
Okay.
I don't know what the hell's happening. I don't know who to believe. Do you guys know about that?
Roughly, yeah. I heard he was kind of being a creep to her on set, and then she filed a sexual harassment thing.
But then it turns out that she also had a bunch of stuff that he didn't like. So they're both kind of like bad people, but like they're suing each other for like $400 million. Honestly, the distraction we need right now, guys.
Right.
It's like, honestly, thank you. And and I don't know how much more we can possibly take, but thank you so much. Chelsea Handler had a great joke about it at the Critics' Choice Awards the other night, where it's like, thank you, but okay, like we're good. Like it could go on till the end of time. I don't know who's right. I think they're both wrong. Like, and I think there's so much money. And then the fact that like they live in LA and like the fires and everything, like that's probably what they should be focusing on.
Right.
But the fact that they're still suing each other in the middle of like a major natural disaster, insane. And just insanity. So I don't know if that's a conspiracy theory, but like, boy, is it a theory I am excited to stay on for the next
Johnny
couple
and
years.
Amber. Yeah, it's
Yes,
the new
it is kind of
distraction.
Johnny and Amber like.
Yeah.
Which also that I don't know, you just don't know, but you want to keep watching.
When does Ryan Reynolds come in full Deadpool and just
Take over
and settle business?
Well, I guess he was on set. Like Blake Lively brought him into set to like direct things and then like to rewrite the script about women going through domestic assault. I go, what the hell are you doing here, Ryan Reynolds? And then I guess he made fun of Jason Baldoni in Deadpool and Wolverine. And so Baldoni's like, you made fun of me and now I'm suing you for that. It's like, whoa.
Sheesh.
Yeah. So
Distraction. Look at this while I steal your wallet
I
with
know.
this hand.
I mean, I'm kind of like, you can take it.
I keep my wallet in my butt, Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, good luck. I'd like to see you get in there.
Yeah, get in there. Yeah, I don't know. The whole defamation thing is really, really screwy. You're right, especially in a time with the fires going on. People don't want to talk about what caused the fires, but boy, there's a fiery, dramatic Hollywood scandal going on.
Yeah, exactly. You're telling me. Yeah, it's nice. I actually, and I think they're both going to be fine. Like they have enough money, they'll bounce back. It's just like it seems a little silly in the grand scheme of things. And maybe, you know what? Maybe it was as bad as they say. I just don't know if it was.
Yeah, I think the fires are probably worse.
Worse. And I think they have enough money. They can do a lot of therapy.
Right.
And she's going to be fine. He's going to be fine. They have $400 million to sue with. They're going to be fine.
Yeah. Even if they just gave up on acting, they'd be set.
I know. Ryan Reynolds, you literally, Mint Mobile, I don't even know what that is. I just hear the commercials. He has Mint Mobile, so he's going to be fine.
He's making Mickey Mouse money now, too.
Yeah. That Deadpool stuff. Like, come on. He's going to be fine.
Just hang it up. Move back to Canada. Own a lake. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, he used to date Alanis Morissette, too.
Did he?
Mm-hmm. So it's like he has, like, this feminist past. But and he was with Scarlett Johansson, but then they believed that he had an affair with Blake Lively while him and ScarJo were married.
Scandalous.
When they met on the Green Lantern. Did you guys know that?
Did
Bet
not.
you didn't.
No. But
Bet you didn't.
But now you know.
Now you know. Bing. So, yep, that's where I stand with conspiracy theories of it all.
So just Hollywood conspiracies.
I love Hollywood. I love keeping up with it, keeping up with Hollywood, keeping up with the Kardashians. I love it. I've always loved like celebrity gossip, and maybe I shouldn't, but I kind of do. I think it's a nice thing. Like I love going to the airport because I know I get to buy a celebrity magazine to read on the airplane, and then I can do the crossword puzzle on the back. It's really a win-win. $4.99, best deal in town.
Beat Sky Mall.
Sky Mall is pretty cool too.
Mall's
Not a
pretty
lot
good.
of conspiracy theories in Sky Mall.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
So what part of Chicago do you live in?
I am in kind of this division of like Boys Town, Wrigley, and Lakeview. It's more Boys Town and Wrigley, I would say. Like I'm right by Halstead, but I'm right by like Addison and stuff.
Yeah.
So I like it. I've always lived in that area, Lakeview, more. Yeah, it's great. There's a lot of dogs and families. I'm close to the restaurant I work at. It's accessible, you have the red line and all that stuff. So it's a bummer when games are going on because you can't. So like Davenport's closes at like 2 in the morning. So it's like I have to take a car home. And then it's like if there's a game going on or a concert getting out or whatever, it can't drop me off at my house. Like it has to drop me off like at one of the cross streets. Yeah. So then it's like you got to try to convince the driver. You're like, hey, can you please just drive me down? It's like 2 a.m. Can you please just drive me to my street or whatever? Yeah. So that's kind of a bummer sometimes. And the Cubs fans can be a little much.
Heard that.
They love to yell at me while I'm walking to my job. Like, please leave me alone. But they're silly and it's fine, whatever.
That's a fun part of town, especially for a young artist like yourself. There are so many cool places. Do you have any favorite places you like to perform over?
Yeah, I love the Annoyance a lot.
Yeah.
I feel really at home there. I feel like it's a really good community to make goofy art where it's not like more corporate or more for tourists or whatever. I really like it's really close to my house. Like it's just an accessible thing. And I really enjoy that theater.
Is there anything in Chicago you haven't done yet that you would like to try to do?
I mean, there's always stuff to try. I'd like to do one of those paint and sip classes where you sip wine and you paint. I need to find more hobbies that aren't career driven. That's something I've been working on because I'm very devoted to the career and then all my jobs and stuff like that. But it's like I need to find an outlet. And I love to like work out and stuff. It's good for the brain. But we need to be doing fun things. And I, once again, am struggling with the socialization of it all and being so tired. Like, I'm so tired all the time. But then being like, no, you should go out. That's probably why I'm going to die alone, too. But time will tell. Probably the new hobby, find a boyfriend.
Yeah. Are you in the dating scene then?
Yeah.
You could say no comment.
No, yeah, I am. It's just, it's hard because I'm so busy. And then it's like, do they really understand the whole comedy thing? Or I think sometimes I'm a little overwhelming for them. Maybe a little intimidating. I don't know if that's what it is. Where it's like, I just know exactly what I'm going to do. And I think sometimes that's like, oh, I'm a financial analyst. So it's like, oh, okay. Well, I want to.
Would you rather date someone who's in the regular working field, or would you prefer somebody who's also in the arts?
I think I want somebody in the arts. I don't know if they have to be a comedian, because male comedians, I don't know if you've met them, but they can be a little bit weird. But there's some cuties out there. They don't like me, but no, I'm just kidding. But I think they would have to be just creative. I think they would have to get it. And just like, you got to come to the shows and you just got to be supportive and like, I'll support you and stuff like that. That's kind of the goal. I think sometimes too, I'll go on these dates and they're like, I do data analysis. And I'm like, oh my God, that's so cool. But then I'm trying to explain like what an audition is or something like that, where it's like, whoa, we're starting from square one. So I go into a room and there's all these scary people behind a table. Yeah, so that's hard. It's like you need the middle ground. But sure. I don't know. So I honestly, I think socialization, like I just want to like, there's so many cool restaurants and like cool little activities like the paint and sip and so like silly stuff like that. That's just like fun to do. Bowling. I don't know. Something silly. Join like a softball league or something where it's like, it's just not devoted to, it's not comedy related. It's not singing. It's not acting. It's not that. You just need to go out and enjoy your life. Because that's also where content is going to come from too. But yeah, I'm working on it. I guess I think that would answer the question.
Yeah.
Time will tell.
Good answer.
Thanks.
Answer. Do you have any other questions?
I think we've covered a lot of ground today.
We definitely have.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think so too.
Well, I guess I got one last question for you. If there was anything that you want the listeners to pick up from this show today, what would that be?
I do my own one-woman show called Halfway to 53, soon to be 54. It's awesome. I combine stand-up comedy and music. I work really hard on it. You will relate to it in some way, specifically if you're a woman or just not a straight white male. And if you are a straight white male, come on by. Don't fall asleep in the second row, but please come. Get that? No, it's really fun. I promise it's entertaining. It's great. I'm very proud of it, and it's good. And if you have something that you've always wanted to do and that you're really passionate about, but you're maybe a little bit too scared to do, I talk about this in my show at the end too. I encourage you to try it, because we just don't know what's going to happen in this world or whatever. And I would just hate that you got to a point where you're like, God, I really wish I had done that, but I was just too scared to do it. Because it's kind of like, what a bummer. Like, you know, and there's everybody, it's a case-by-case thing, of course, and it depends on what the thing is. But if it's something that you feel like you can actually do, but it's the only thing holding you back is just pure fear, I encourage you to do it. Because I guarantee you're going to learn something from it. And that's that's kind of what I did. And it's like the most successful thing that I've done. And it got me on the show. And it's gotten people to know who I am. And it was the scariest thing. It's still the scariest thing, but it's helped me be a better person and be who I actually want to be. So I just encourage people to try that and just give it your best shot, y'all. Yeah.
Very wise words.
Thanks.
Very, very wise words. Well, Laura, we wish you nothing but the best of luck in the future here. Thank you again so much for joining us on the show.
Yeah, thank you for having me, guys. This was super fun.
You're smart, you're driven, you got that shimmer in your eye of like, I'm gonna fucking do this.
Woo, I hope you're right.
And it's not like Psycho Ex-Girlfriend, I'm gonna burn your car shimmer.
I hope not. That's not
at
point.
all. No, that's not the vibe whatsoever.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
No, nothing but sheer love and support. And what you said today was very enlightening, and I know it's gonna inspire a lot of people.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I want you just to know that here at Hawk Wins, we support you and we believe in you. And you're going to move mountains, kid. Just keep on keeping on.
I need you in my pocket. Come live with me.
You got a shrinking machine? I'll work for peanuts.
Okay, sounds like a plan. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
We appreciate you, Laura. Thank you very much.
Okay, bye.
Well, if you guys are interested in checking out more about Laura Dellis, check down in the description below. Go to lauradellis.com. You can find her on YouTube and social medias of all different kinds, Facebooks, Instagrams. Are you on TikTok?
Yeah, I'm on TikTok. I'm on them all.
Yeah, she's on them all.
For better or worse.
So give her a follow, give her a shout out. If you like the show today, give us a like, give us a follow, give us a shout out. Hit that subscribe button down below. We are here every single Wednesday at the beautiful Q4 radio station, right here in lovely Chicago. Snowy Chicago, Illinois.
Chicago. For a snowstorm, it wasn't that stormy or snowy today.
No, it wasn't even that bad.
It wasn't,
right?
Yeah.
I shared something today on my social medias. I thought it was fucking funny because all the shows that we do, everyone's like, yeah, I'm going to start like taking Tums or like Pepto-Bismol before the show. And I keep Tums in my car. Always, always. Maybe it's just because I turned 30 and that's just what you do. But I had my car in 4x4 and Tums in the photo. And I said, what is this? This is to alleviate skid marks.
Oh my God.
And I was like, I don't know if people
So
will
do you
find
automatically go to the store and buy Tums once you turn 30?
Dude, it's just that and the white New Balance sneakers. They just show up at your door one day. You just can't get rid of them.
Goodbye cheese.
Good. No, cheese stays. Cheese stays.
That's what the Tums are for.
That's what the Tums are for.
There you
exactly. And yogurt. Yogurt's always good. Yeah, to an extent. But enough of our bubbles. Well, we're going to wrap up the show. Thank you guys again for joining us today. Again, if you like the show, hit subscribe, hit the share button. And again, all of Laura Dellis' information is down below. Until next time, my name is Jack Dwyer.
And I'm Jay Smooth.
Thank you guys for joining Hawk Wins Radio Picture Show. Good night.
Peace.